This is a story, and it's called The Story. Once, long ago, a pen meant an empty notebook page. The pen bled and bled all over the place, and in the spot where the spill occurred, a story grew. The story was a very strange form of life. The world it lived in was flat. Sometimes I could see a pair of eyes bearing down on it from the world above. Other times it was simply trapped in the dark, folded between pages and apparently forgotten. The story wanted to escape this place. One summer evening, when the eyes appeared from above, the story heard a voice relating to someone else what the story was about. Another voice asked repeatedly, "Really? No, really?" Suddenly, without warning, the story was torn away from its paper world and found itself hurtling through space. The story's words were being spoken by someone to someone else. Each sentence, one by one, was being torn from the page it had been printed on, pulled away by the eyes reading it, and shot cannon-like through the mouth that belonged to those eyes. The story was terrified. Through the air it flew. It was only able to catch the slightest glimpse of this new world, one that had depth as well as surface. This was like nothing it had lived on before. The story looked behind itself and could see the mouth belonged to an aging woman who was alternately looking at the book from which the story had come and back at a young boy. The story hurtled towards the child at an incredible speed. It shot straight into the boy's ear canal. The experience of flying had been momentary but intense. Now the story was plunging down a hole that went into the boy's head. It exited the hole and the scenario changed once again. The story was whirling around somewhere inside the child, but it wasn't like the inside of anything. Whatever this container was, it didn't seem to have any sides. What was more, something seemed to be grabbing the story's words, grasping at whole phrases, twisting entire sentences, and pulling so hard the story thought it might tear it away from the major plot. The ferocious hands would let go momentarily, only to resume the attack elsewhere. All the time this was happening, the child's voice thundered all around. "What happened next? What happened?" Eventually, the attack stopped. The voice was silent, and the story recovered itself to realize that its narrative framework hadn't actually been broken. However, it had suffered a badly sprained connecting phrase along with a dislocated exclamation point. The story realized it was somewhere else now. This is a different container, and it definitely had sides. Sides that were far too close together. The story pounded on the wall as hard as it could, echoes ringing in its ears. Before long, a voice answered, "Hey, keep it down. We have some of us are trying to sleep in here." The story asked, "Who's there? Where's this place?" "This place is called Memory. As for me, I'm a nursery rhyme. I've been here for years." "You mean we're stuck here? I'll be here forever?" "No, don't worry. You'll get out as soon as he remembers you." "Well, I hope that soon," replied the story, and drifted off to sleep. The story was awoken with a violent yank. It was being pulled from the box it was in. A few violent ricochets and a tumble through a boy's box later, it was fired through the boy's mouth. It was the following day and the boy was at school. "Listen to what happens next," the boy said. The story flew through space, in and out of ear canals, through other heads, and felt itself carried on the wind. It was terrifically exciting. I hope I don't end up in that box again. This is fun out here. The story got its wish for a time at least. It lived suspended between voices, floating in and out of heads. First here, then there. One moment it was spinning in someone's imagination. The next it was lingering over a family's dinner table. At one point it occupied a living room for an entire TV commercial. It was existing in 100 places at once. Sometimes it got a bit longer. Other times it got mixed up with another story. Frequently it found itself exaggerated. It had never known life like this. But alas, nothing lasts forever. One day the world just seemed smaller. There weren't so many voices to ride, and when the story did poke itself out of someone's mouth, it could barely get its entire plot off the ground. Once descending into an ear canal, it bounced right off a wall. The passage just stopped dead. So it looked for another place to be told. They were coming few and far between. What would happen when the story had no more ground to stand on? Finally, one day the inevitable happened. Someone somewhere, apparently the last person who actually knew the story, began to tell its tale. The sentences slipped out into the air one by one with frightening sluggishness. Something was about to go wrong and the story felt it coming. With little more than half its narrative hanging out into space, the passage closed. The story screamed in terror. It had been severed in two, just below the climax. The last I heard of the outside world was a voice saying, "I can't remember what happens next." The story fell back from the world of depth it had come to know. It felt a tremendous weight crushing down on it, infinitely heavy, till it was as flat as it could possibly be. It remembered this place. This is the page it had been written on. It was back in that book it had escaped from all that time ago. Would another pair of eyes come to rescue it? Would it have another chance to run amok through little children's heads? Alas, it was too late for that. The book had at some point been discarded in a forgotten corner, decomposing in the space consigned to it. The story would be told no more. There the story perished. The pages it inhabited fell victim to the elements, and the holes that appeared in its pages grew until every last letter was consumed. As the story's substance gave way to dust, it had a final thought. What if this experience of my life had been a story in itself, and someone told it to someone else? Would I live again? Yes.